It was my first time in a grocery warehouse. My eyes were caught by the top gaping maw that was the shutter doors, bumping into my dad from behind during my moment of distraction. I just could not believe that this store, with this much traffic, would be this big. Granted, I was still a teen too, but that's besides the point. He turned and smiled and then gestured forward. We approached the door greeter. Dad presented a card, and we were welcomed in. I asked about the card, and Dad said that only members were allowed to shop here. I was curious about how he joined. For only a second before the warehouse opened up before us, my gaze couldn't be left to linger for more than a few seconds, although they weren't necessarily products I'd be interested in. The sheer amount and quantity was mind-blowing, and the size of the warehouse itself impressed me, the most of all stretching out above us and all the other shoppers, like night sky over a grand bazaar. The shelves alone acted like skyscrapers, and the place was just bustling as any other city I knew. Dad called my name for me to hurry along, and not wanting to lose me in the crowds, I caught up and kept it in pace with the cart, following down each passage between the shelving units and other shoppers. As we were stopped, while Dad decided between a jumbo pack of batteries and an extra jumbo pack, I couldn't help but watch in awe at the woman at the opposite side of the aisle. She was next to the selection of chicken curries, and her arm was sleeve cleaving across the edge, knocking truly inordinate amount of sauce into her oversized cart. The next kid who was letting out ear-piercing screeches, she paid the kid no mind. However, she blankly marched forward and knocked another section of instant juice mix into her hoard. As the boxes knocked against the pounds of meat that carpeted the bottom of her cart, the thuds they made pulsed a rhythm, like a heartbeat, actually. This sound wasn't from this woman alone. Every customer, every item, dropping and landing in sync, pounding like the beat of an ancient beast. A hand gently shook my shoulder to break me from my trance. "It's rude to stare like that," Dad said, dropping the extra jumbo batteries into our own cart and pointed forward to our next stop. That was the conflict of feelings that bombarded me. We advanced through the warehouse, complete and utter astonishment at how many goods was available for purchase, and such at reasonable prices too, which was easily washed away by the disgust and concern I felt seeing countless people shoving unnecessarily products into already swelling carts, as they shoved me for free samples in their own gullets. Their consumption repulsed me. We weren't even halfway in for the store, and already I was sick of watching other people. So my gaze returned with the infrastructure, trying to understand how much of a large operation ran, and struggling to grasp just at how many systems were at play with this building. For example, how many items did they get on top of these shelves safely? I could have fallen from the roof of my house and still hit the ground sooner, but that thing actually stood out to me. Where were the pipes? Surely there had to be water and heat and ventilation in this place. Even in school, there were plenty of noticeable pipes that I would stare at instead of going and getting work done. When I looked straight up past the flaring fluorescent lights, did I see a giant spinning fan. It was so difficult to notice, as the entire ceiling blended into itself, and from the fan, my eyes followed the length of the pipe, a tube, a box where several other tubes and other pipes sprung from, leading to more boxes, and more pipes that came from down there were painted to match the walls, so I didn't even notice the other 4 tubes coming out of the refrigeration unit. I pointed this discovery out to my dad, and he nodded. "Yeah, that's quite something, huh? How come I didn't notice it sooner?" "It's called flat paint. They use it in stores like this and other places to hide mechanical stuff here, since it absorbs more light." "Why is that?" "Something to do with making the atmosphere more comfortable to customers. If they felt this place looked and like a massive factory, you'd probably would feel like shopping about it in. But since the paint does not reflect as well, your eyes weren't drawn to it, and instead you focus on stuff like this." He stopped next to a mega box of assorted cookies and grinned. Should we get one? I nodded quietly, though not paying any attention. Now that I noticed it, I realized just how deep the machines ran throughout this place. The systems were there, but they were blocked out between brilliant lights and flat paints. I could hear the sounds, their whirring language, but it was buried under the torrent of footsteps and mass murmurs. All beneath that deeper than the thudding and grumblings of this cult consumerism. I was certain this time I had heard a heartbeat. I looked at the pipes, past the paint. It may have been from the fan passing over, or the light bending in my sight, but I saw them bulge. I didn't want to come back, even my dad trying to sell me on their cheap burgers, and I didn't. I stayed home on any trips to that place, and for a while I tried to avoid going to our usual hometown stores. I couldn't help but stare past the flat paint above, watching those pipes. One time I got quite scolding from some old fart for standing in the middle of the frozen section, instead of moving along and buying, spending money and consuming. That was years ago. I have a family of my own now, and while it's been tough with the current cost of living, I am very proud of what we've built together. This past Christmas, my dad sent me a card with his gift included, something to help out with the expenses. It was a membership card for the same store, an open invitation to that gaping hole of gluttony. I still haven't used it yet, but the temptation only strengthens with each passing day. What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload, so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, please stay pretty.